Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Blue Ridge Silverhound. I'm your host, Sean, and today we're going to talk about dollar bills, $5 bills, 10s, 20s, 50s, 100s. Why are we talking about this? Well, above and everything else out there, in spite of the fact that people are using debit and credit cards a lot more, there are a lot of people that still hold on to regular paper money. That's right. We go to the ATM, we take out 20 bucks, $100, $500, whatever the case may be. Every time you pull money out of the ATM, or every time you receive change at your local coffee shop or perhaps the grocery store, you have the opportunity to find a really valuable, a very sought after piece of currency. So, what is it exactly that we're going to be looking for? Well, as you can see on the screen, we're going to be focusing on something called fancy serial number hunting. Which fancy serial numbers are the most valuable? Okay, that's a great question. People need to know that these exist. Every single piece of currency, every single dollar bill, $5 bill, you name it, has its own unique identity. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the serial number that's printed right on the note. It's a fingerprint for that note. All right, very unique, very interesting, and it is that attribute of that dollar bill or that 5 or 10 or 20 that has the potential to make you many, many hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. In some cases, there are notes that are worth incredible, over $10,000, $20,000, and you need to know exactly what you're looking for because these can pop up at any given time. You just never know. So let's go ahead and get started with some samplings of various serial number patterns that you're going to want to look for. Now, the ones that I'm going to preface here on the video are notes that are generally very desirable, okay, but are worth the least on the list. And they are exciting. They're an exciting group of notes to look for. Okay, the first one that we have here is called a radar. All right, the technical term is a palindrome, and the first four numbers in the serial number pattern is mirrored on the second four set of numbers. So you could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1 on the note, and that is what's called a radar. So the first four numbers is mirrored to the second set of numbers in the same serial number pattern. All right, so that's a radar. Okay, this particular fancy serial number, very valuable. Let's say you found one. Okay, you wanted to go ahead and sell it. These typically command somewhere between $5 and $25 depending on grade. Now, there are examples that will be worth a little bit more money than that in higher grades. So grade plays a huge factor in determining the value and how much money you can receive for these notes by the time, the auction's over or whatever. So the next one that I want to talk about here is something called a 7 in a row. All right, there is also a 7 of a kind, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But 7 in a row is the same digit that's repeated over 7 times without any breaks. All right, so in the case of this sample piece of currency that you see on screen, okay, you have one number and then you have 7 straight numbers of the same digit. And that's what they call a 7 in a row. Now, there is a 7 of a kind. Let's say you do have that one pesky serial number that breaks up the 7 in a row fancy serial number pattern. That's what you have here. This is a 7 of a kind. Both extremely valuable, and these notes, again, are worth anywhere between that $5, $10 all the way up to about $50, $60, depending on grade. This is a really easy sell if you did discover any of these two serial patterns. Plus, people love the allure of a like 7 of a kind. All right, it sounds lucky to a lot of people, and especially those notes that exhibit all 7s or all 8s are some of the most valuable. Now, the reason why all 8s is valuable, we call them crazy 8s, but in the Far East, okay, in China and countries like that, they covet the number 8 as being very lucky in their culture. So you sometimes, and I have personally myself, come across really cool fancy serial number patterns with lots of 8s in there, and I have sold them to folks that are across the Pacific Ocean. Okay, and they spend a copious amount of money for notes like this. So the next sample serial number that we're going to keep an eye out on is something called a binary. Now, this term and definition has kind of evolved over the years. Okay, a true binary is the note that you see on screen, and what that is you have a pattern, doesn't matter how it's all jumbled up, of zeros and ones, all right, in the serial number string. You're not going to see any other number in a true binary. However, people have adopted the word binary as being a serial number that exhibits any two specific numbers in that string. So it could be 8s and 9s, it could be 1s and 5s, whatever the case may be. But a true binary is zeros and ones, and the true binaries, I'm happy to say, are the most valuable because the definition of that particular fancy serial number matches the actual serial number on the note. The true binaries, the zeros and ones, can sell anywhere from $10, $15 to as high as $150, $200. All right, again, depending on grade. Regular, what they call two-digit binaries that are not zeros and ones, sell in that $5 to $25 range. All right, so that's another example of a fancy serial number. And then the last one here before we jump into that top 5 is something called a repeater, and it's real simple. The first 4 digits in the serial number string matches the second set of 4 digits. Okay, it's not mirrored, it's not a radar, but let's say you have 6012. Okay, the second set would be 6012 in that same serial number string. Repeaters are probably one of the most widely available serial numbers because there's so many opportunities to find a repeater number in the course of an entire run of that specific block. All right, so this is one of the more widely available serial number strings that you come across in your notes. And these, I'm happy to say, sell anywhere from that $5 to $10 range all the way up to like 50, 60 bucks. Again, very desirable, very sought after. So before we jump into the actual top 5 list of fancy serial numbers that are worth the most amount of money, keep in mind this one fact. Okay, we talked about some of the more minor fancy serial numbers in the course of this video, and keep in mind the denomination in which you find these plays a huge role. So let's say a radar serial number on a $1 bill will be worth more in theory, or you will make more money on it in theory than you would, say, a $50 bill with that same serial number pattern. Okay, and this is where the denomination plays a huge role in it. A dollar bill with the radar serial pattern, sells on eBay or a secondary, source of auction for $25. Okay, so you can't expect that $50 bill to not only hit the face value of the note plus 25. Oftentimes, these type of notes with this serial number on a higher denomination will sell right around face value. Okay, that really only applies to the minor serial number strings like radars and repeaters, where you get into notes that will have significant more value are going to be these top 5. And then we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So the first one that we're going to talk about here today is what is called a super repeater. Okay, so we have a regular repeater, which is 4 digits and 4 digits on that serial number. A super repeater is 2 digits that repeat over 4 times. Okay, there are 8 numbers in a standard Federal Reserve note. So you have 2 numbers, like let's say 1, 2, and it would be repeated over 4 times. So the sample I have here, by the way, all the images are courtesy of Heritage Auctions for the top 5. The 2017 $20 bill that you see here, of course, it's a modern colorized note, one that we see all the time, has a super repeater serial number pattern of 79797979. Okay, this note right here sold as part of a group, but doing the math, this one sold for about $400. And all these notes are authenticated by either PCGS currency or PMG, which is also a part of NGC for the coin crowd. So you're going to want to look for super repeaters that look like this. Another tremendous example, and they exist out there more frequently than you would think, okay? And then sometimes you'll come across a super repeater pattern in which one number is off, okay? That's annoying, but that's part of the hunt. The other example that we have here is going to be this dollar bill, and it's a 2009 series $1 Federal Reserve note that exhibits a super repeater number of 24 repeated over 4 times. This is a note right here that sold for about $250. So these have really good value. Now, as far as an overall value range, okay, dependent on grade, of course, these notes sell from anywhere from like $50 all the way up to like $500-600. Okay, extremely valuable in the grand scheme of fancy serial numbers. Okay, but it is my number 5 on the list. Now, the number 4 fancy serial number string that I have chosen on this list is kind of like a 4A, 4B with the super repeater. And this one is affectionately referred to as a super radar. Now, this differs from a regular radar in that with the super radar, you only have 2 digits that make up the entire fancy serial number string. In the case of this sample that you see here, it's a $1 Federal Reserve note that not only is it a super radar, but it's also a true binary because it's ones and zeros, but you have bookends of the same digit, and then the middle 6 digits are all the same. All right, so it is a palindrome. This particular example is also a binary because it's ones and zeros, and it's extremely valuable. This note right here sold for many hundreds of dollars on Heritage at one point. The other example that we see here is another $1 bill, Federal Reserve note. This one has a probably a super radar that we would be more apt to see or find in strap searching. But you have bookends of the 5, and then you have all these 9s filling in the middle of the note. Much like the super repeater, we have a value range of about $50 to about $500-600 for this particular note. Again, for the number 4 and number 5 on the list, it would help if you found these on either a dollar bill or even a 5, okay? Because if you get higher than that in denomination, you make less money because of the actual denomination of the note. Kind of like your initial investment rate into the dollar bill or 5 or 10 or 20. So the number 3 note, and it jumps up quite a bit on this list from the number 4 slot all the way up to number 3, but we have something called ladders. Okay, ladders is you have a set of numbers that are either in ascending or descending order that go from 0 to 7. So you would have a serial number, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the note for all 8 digits, and it's in order. That's the important thing, not a jumbled or broken ladder. Those don't count. But the example that you see here is a $1 Federal Reserve note that sold on Heritage a while back, and this one exhibits 2 through 9 serial numbers. So you can see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That fills up the entire serial number range, and this one sold for a few $1,000s. Okay, they are extremely valuable in any grade. What people are doing is when these notes come out, they actually go to the bank and they order full bricks of these notes direct from the BEP, which is also known as the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. Okay, that's going to be your best bet in finding some of the most crispiest, newest notes that are worth the most amount of money. Okay, that's what people are doing for all of these serial number strings. They're looking for those high grade notes. The other example of a ladder that we see here is one that actually is going in descending order. So we start out with 0, and it goes 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Okay, and that makes up the entire ladder string for this fancy. This one, again, is one that you could keep an eye out on. Okay, it looks kind of unassuming because it's in reverse order, and it starts with a zero. A number of these have been passed up in the past, but when it comes to the actual value of a ladder, we're talking about a range of somewhere between $1,500 and $2,000 for any serial number string. The 1 through 8 is the most valuable because it's the most identifiable in terms of just the way a number reads, like on a sheet of paper. 1 through 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Those actually can hit $3,000 to $4,000 with that serial number string. So the number 2 on the list is, some would say this should be number 1, but I disagree for a main reason, okay? This one, the number 2 on the list, is a low serial number, okay? And what I classify, and what a lot of experts in the field classifies as a low serial number, is any note that exhibits 5 leading zeros. So a 3-digit serial number from 999 on down is what we classify as a low serial number. So if you have a 4-digit serial, like you have 4 leading zeros and it's like 5398, it seems low, but there's no premium associated with that kind of fancy serial number. Maybe $5, $10 on the best day, which I wouldn't quite step over those. I would pull those out. But in terms of low serial number, fancy serial number searching, 5 leading zeros is the key. Now here's where it gets really, really pricey. Okay, the one example that you see on screen is a 1976 $2 Federal Reserve note. We still come across $2 bills. We ask for them at the bank. They'll give it to you. They don't like to give them out if you don't ask for them. Okay, this particular example is the most extreme of a low serial number. It is serial number 1. It is the most valuable note as a low serial number. Okay, of course we know why. In addition, this is also a star note. All right, so you put both of these kind of factors in the mix, and you have a note that's sold for $29,900. And get this, this note right here was found in circulation. It graded AU58, which means it has seen some circulation during its time. But this is a note that's sold for right around $30,000. And again, this one was found in circulation. You just never know where these are going to pop out at. The other example of a ladder serial number is this one right here. Okay, coming back down to earth a little bit. This is a 2009 $10 Federal Reserve note. This one right here is also a serial number 1. And this one sold on Heritage Auctions April 25th of 2014 for $17,625. Now, these are 2 of the most extreme examples of a low serial number, okay? But if you found, say, a serial number that exhibits 935, for example, how much would, some of you will ask, how much can I sell this for? Let's say it's circulated, all right? You could sell this notes, for between like $15 and $20, okay? They do have a market, and that's why it's important to find those notes that have the 5 leading zeros in the serial number, because that's what's important to collectors. So that's the low serial number. The final and the number 1 most sought after fancy serial number is going to be what they call a solid serial. Okay, solid means all the digits in the serial number are the same. Okay, the examples that I have here exemplify this beautifully. Okay, the first note that we have here is a 2003A Federal Reserve note that exhibits solid 9s all the way across. All right, this is a note that's sold on Heritage Auctions January 5th of 2018, so this is a recent sale for $12,000. Okay, it's also a high-grade note as well. The other example that we have here is a 2009A $100 bill that's sold for $5,640. All right, so this is a more recent note. Okay, it's a colorized 100, one that we're all used to seeing. And this one was sold April 24th of 2019. Okay, solid eights. Again, there were them eights again, very valuable. People in Chinese culture want anything that's associated with the number 8, all right, because it's lucky to them. They really enjoy it. But the reason why I put this number 1 on the list is you could, first of all, they're not as easy to find. Whereas a low serial number, for each block, you have from 1 to 999. So you have nearly 1,000 possibilities for every single block that comes out for that particular note. Whereas in a solid serial, you only have 10 examples, or 9 rather, of a solid serial that pops up with every brand new block. So, much tougher to find. And if you found even the least desirable solid, say 5s or 6s are not, the most revered in terms of, solid serials, those still sell for like $3,000 to $5,000. All right, so every single one of them is worth many thousands of dollars if you found one. And that's why I put it number 1 on the list, in spite of the fact that serial number 1 on that second slot commands so much more money. But then again, you have to weigh it differently with those higher serial, 3-digit serials. As a low serial number, they're worth quite a bit less. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video on which fancy serial numbers are the most valuable. This is a top 5 list. If you guys have questions, comments, tell me. I would love to hear your stories on some of the fancy serial numbers that you have found. Would love to hear it. Before I jump off, I also wanted to dispel a few myths of serial numbers that look and appear fancy but really aren't. So the few examples that I have here, the first one, by the way, these are all pulled off of eBay, and sorry guys I posted this, but still have mad love for you guys for being part of the hobby. Keep on going. This one right here is advertised as being a double ladder. Okay, you might have little hybrids here and there, but this individual was asking over $100 for this note, and it's not even worth maybe $5. It's neat, it's a kind of neat pattern, but in the fancy serial number collecting world, okay, for the big power players, this just does not jive up to what a standard fancy serial number would be. All right, but if you're looking to make $5, yeah, this is a good note here. Someone will probably pick this up for around that amount of money, but not over $100. The other kind of pseudo fancy serial number that has kind of gained traction here, I would say in the last 10 years, is people have dubbed a fancy serial number pattern called a trinary, where you have 3 numbers that's somehow repeated in a certain pattern on a serial number. This is a far reach because, binary and a 2-digit binary is where it kind of like the value train stops. When you get into trinary, you're certainly reaching for a reason why your note should sell for $25, which ironically, that's how much this seller is asking for this particular note. So be on the lookout for kind of like these weird hybrid, broken type of serial number patterns that appear at face value to be neat and interesting, but have no real secondary market value. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and end it off. Thank you again for joining. Like, share, subscribe. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. Hit that bell for instant notification, and I will see you next time. Take care.